new Hatchie update allows you to easily add new games to your SNES Classic Edition, most people are breaking the law up and down, filling their tiny SNESs to the brim. Everybody already knows what most of the best Super Nintendo games that were missing from the original lineup are, but the SNES Classic doesn't have unlimited storage, and even if it did, would you really want to scroll for 20 minutes finding a game? It'll hold about 300 games as it is, which is plenty, so I'm gonna take a hot minute and talk about some silly and lesser known games that I've been messing around with since my good friend Shane modded my console. That's right, Shane did it. Reggie-san, if you're watching this video, arrest him, not me. Now that all that legal mumbo-jumbo's out of the way, most of the games I'll be talking about either weren't released outside of Japan, or you might even know about them already. But either way, if you're modding your micro SNES, there's a good chance you might find out about a game or two that you may have overlooked. Whether it be because you forgot about them, were unaware they existed, or maybe I just have a poor taste in games and should be shot right in the dick. At any rate, let's begin. Number 1. Hagane. Usually the most expensive games for retro consoles tend to suck turds through straws, but the Super Nintendo is the exception to that rule. Hagane, the most expensive English game, is a side-scrolling action game where you play as a cyborg ninja, which is as badass as it sounds. It's got tons of cool weapons, amazing controls, and gritty graphics. I actually don't own this game, but I mean, it was never on the eShop in the first place, so suck me peck all you anti-classic modders out there. Number 2. Jikuyo Ashabiri Parodius?
Holy shit! Oh.
This two-player Japanese exclusive never made it outside of Japan because, well, it's way too Japanese. And that's why you need to play it. It's not translated into English, but nothing makes sense anyway, so I doubt it even matters. Even the menu's wacky. Look at this bird that follows you around giving you kisses. That's awesome! The characters and enemies are all crazy, the gameplay's super solid, and I can't recommend this game enough if you're a fan of fun. Number 3. Castlevania Dracula X. Not incredibly obscure, but there's still a lot of people out there who don't know about this other Castlevania game on the SNES. It's more or less a port of a Japanese exclusive TurboGrafx CD game. It plays more like the original NES Castlevanias than the fourth game on the Super Nintendo, mainly with tighter controls and a more simplistic whip. Although I like Super Castlevania 4 better despite the whip being overpowered, this game's still a heck of a mess of fun and essential to any illegal Super Nintendo collection. Number 4. Final Fight Guy. This blockbuster exclusive was a collaboration between Capcom and Seth MacFarlane that was made to build anticipation for the release of Family Guy that came out a mere 5 years later. It plays a lot like the original Final Fight and feels more like an extension than a sequel, but you should check it out.
Check it out!
Number 5. Mega Man and Bass. I know we got this outside of Japan for the Game Boy Advance, but it's badass to play it on the Super Nintendo emulator, or repro cartridge. This game was made for Super Famicom owners who didn't have a PS1 to play Mega Man 8. Sadly though, due to the weaker hardware, it doesn't feature the Oscar award-winning performance from some guy Capcom found outside of their voice recording studio.
You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
Number 6. Demon's Crest. Kinda like Ghouls and Ghosts, except in this game, the difficulty's not harder than my nips when I think about the winter. Number 7. Evo. This is a unique and ambitious game where the sun tells the earth to create life and have it evolve. You start off as this dumbass little fish trying to evolve over the course of billions of years. I thought it was gonna be a simulation, but it's actually a side-scrolling action game with RPG elements. Definitely an odd but fun gem from Enix. Number 8. Final Fantasy V. You can find English ROMs for this all over the internet, but since every country besides Japan was too cool for the RPG genre in the early 90s, this game never got an English translation until much later, which is a real shame. It's since been released like 47 different times in English, and it looks weird on the menu being out of order, but whatever. Missing a Final Fantasy game in your Super Nintendo library is like drinking horse milk without ice. Except for Mystic Quest though. Don't pollute the menu with that trash. Number 9. Goof Troop. Do you like Legend of Zelda 4 Swords? Well, I can't hear you since this is a pre-recorded video and it's impossible for me to wait for your response, but Goof Troop for the Super Nintendo is pretty much the first 4 Swords game, or an early build of it if you don't want to give it that much credit. Either way, it's a fun game based on an underrated cartoon from the 90s, and it plays like 4 Swords, so what more do you want? How about the fact that it's 2 players, something the SNES Classic needs more of? Still not enough? Then you probably won't like this game, so you should leave it off your Classic Edition, ding dong. Number 10. Flashback. This game's kinda unique with some early cutscenes that you have to admire from a historical standpoint. Oh, well, never mind. I don't like this game. I'm just kidding, it's probably good. Number 11. King of Dragons. Another great 2-player beat-em-up from Capcom where you play as knights and shit. I could say a bunch of generic uninspired lines as to why this game's so great, but the truth is, there's not really much more to it than that. It's a lot of fun to play for the same reasons a lot of other beat-em-ups are. Maybe I just didn't play it long enough to notice anything unique about it since I don't really like playing beat-em-ups by myself. It's not like I have any friends to play it with or anything since Shane's in jail for modding my SNES Classic Edition. So with that being said, does anybody want to come over? I've got Punch and Pie! Just saying. Number 12. Knights of the Round. Another great 2-player beat-em-up from Capcom that's not as good as King of Dragons. It's still great for some variety though. Number 13. Lupin the Third. Are you a fan of the Lupin the Third anime? Oh, you're not. Well, that doesn't matter because you're still gonna have a lot of fun playing this game. I can't find an English ROM for this anywhere, so you just have to kind of figure it out for yourself. All you need to know is that you're a world-famous thief trying to pull heists off, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Number 14, Ninja Warriors. An amazing beat-em-up from Taito that's sadly only one player, which is good for me since I don't have a lot of friends in the first place, but the rest of you should really keep it on standby so you have something to cheer you up if your spouse ever leaves you. Number 15, Metal Warriors. I was never really into mechs or anything like that, but this game reminds me of Blaster Master, and I love me some Blaster Master. Holy shit, that guy just stole my mech! I honestly feel kind of violated and helpless. This game sucks. Number 16, Phalanx. I think that's how you say it. An obscure shooter that has my baby's daddy on the box art for some reason. I mean, geez, it's gotta be the worst box art of all time, actually. The game's fun though, and it is 2 players, but god damn, this box art. Number 17 and 18, Pocky and Rocky's 1 and 2. These games are expensive as shit, and for some reason they never appeared on the eShop. Since it's expensive as shit, why not put them on your SNES Classic Edition? They're probably the best side-scrolling shooters on the SNES that look like The Legend of the Mystical Ninja, which you should also add, but that's not obscure enough for this list. Number 19, Saturday Night Slam Master. A common misconception is that wrestling games didn't get good until the next era of consoles, but Japan had Saturday Night Slam Master made by Capcom, and since it was made by Capcom, you can play as Mike Hager from Final Fight. Numbers 20 through 23, the Dragon Quest games. It's kinda hard to find English ROMs for these Japanese exclusive games if you have a Mac and can't patch things for yourself. In fact, I literally just found them 5 minutes ago. But if you somehow needed even more great RPGs for the SNES, then these games right here will be more than enough to make you pee white mud all over your eyes. What? I've only played remakes and whatnot and never any of the originals, but I can't imagine the Super Famicom versions aren't as awesome as the games I've already played. And if you want more bang for your buck out of the SNES Classic Edition, then adding the Dragon Quest games is a no-brainer. Apparently that means you don't need a brain. It's easier than breathing, supposedly. Or, you could support the official releases because Dragon Quest does need a little more love here in America. But after you do that, add these to the SNES Classic turkeys. Number 24, Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose. Another good example of licensed games done right from Konami. And since they're never gonna add it to the eShop, you can illegally download this game with a clear conscience. There are a fair amount of people on the internet who praise this platformer, but it still barely made the cut of being obscure enough to make the list. Numbers 25 and 26, Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2. More Japanese exclusive RPGs I haven't played, but I'm just flat out guessing they're awesome based on what I've heard. I played other games in the series with Tokyo Mirage Sessions being one of my all-time favorite games, so I'll stake my already questionable reputation on the line that these games will hold up from the Super Famicom. Number 27, Soul Blazer. I'm not even sure if this is considered obscure, but I wasn't really that familiar with it until I played it for this video, and it was so hard for me to put down that I actually shit the rug. You start off as this moderately attractive asshole right here, trying to progress through dungeons little by little while killing demons which somehow freeze people on the outside. Just put the game on your Classic Edition and shut your butt. Numbers 28 and 29, Super Turrican 1 and 2. I don't know what it is about single-player shooters being a thing, but it works out great for me since the only people who want to play video games with me besides Shane, who's in prison, are my ex-girlfriends Beyonce, Megan Fox, and Valerie Kilmer. But they need to leave me alone because I could do better. Oh, and these games are a lot of fun. Seriously, load them up. Numbers 30 and 31, The Lost Vikings 1 and 2. Now here's some funny and clever puzzle games that were made by Blizzard before anybody knew they were cool. You play as 3 Vikings who were abducted by aliens who all have different abilities, and the goal is to use your noodle to guide them all to safety. So put these games on your SNES Classic Editions, assholes. Sorry. And number 32, The Twisted Tales of Spike McFang. An underrated and obscure adventure game that controls similarly to Zelda, but this game focuses more on combat rather than puzzle solving, and it has RPG elements, cool abilities, and funny dialogue. If you want something different, make it a point to play this game even if you don't own an SNES Classic Edition. I'm sure there's still tons more games that I'm forgetting, but out of all the ones I've played thus far, these are the most interesting to me. If you know of any hidden gems that I missed, preferably Japanese exclusives translated into English, then let me know in the comments below since I'm sure I'm missing a lot of good games like Famicom Tantei Club Part 2, which is in English, but I can't find a ROM anywhere that's already translated and works on my SNES Classic Edition. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're a super mega badass, then you should subscribe as well to help this channel build street cred, because Shane going to prison for modding my SNES Classic Edition just isn't enough. Thanks for watching, my name's Cameron, and I'll see you next time.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.